My name is Wayne, and this is Type Tested. I have in front of me this Oliver number 5 that I've been working on for some time to try to get cleaned up. And I've been trying to do as much as I can in place. I don't want to remove too many things, but it looks like the way this is going to go, I'm going to have to remove a lot more than I wanted to. That includes the key levers and the type bars. So I thought I would do a video to show how that is done. Now, I've never actually done this before. This is the first Oliver I've worked on, but I've read some things, I've watched a few videos, and I've done some experimentation, and it seems like it's going to be a fairly straightforward process. So let me show you how to get those off and how to get them back in place. What I'll do is, rather than going through the whole thing, I will show you how generally they're removed, and then how generally they're reinstalled using one or two levers and type bars as examples, just so you can understand the process, and then you can do the rest on your own. Now, one thing I want to make sure that is understood, and actually let me go ahead and, one of the things that will be necessary will be to remove this plate. And depending on the version of Oliver, you may have the tab buttons here, the tab levers and margins enclosed. And if that's the case, there's a screw on the side, which you can access from one direction or the other. Yeah. Then all you have to do is loosen it up a bit. You don't even have to take it off. Loosen it up. Well, actually, I guess on this one you do have to take it off. And the key comes right off. So here, this is threaded. All you have to do to put it back on is just screw it back in and cinch it down tight, and it will stay put. Now, before you do any of this, so if that's necessary to take the front cover off, it's no big deal. As I was just saying, before you do any of this, please do yourself a favor and take a picture of the keyboard so that you can make sure you know where everything goes when you have to put it back on. This is particularly important for the tab, the margin, the right margin, left margin. It's easy to forget which one goes where here. So, and worst case, if you forget, go online, find a photograph. All right, so I've already removed a couple of components here and then put them back in loosely just so that I can show you what's necessary. Now, this has a couple of 1/4 inch nuts, very easy to access with a nut driver. I've got these so they're just finger tight, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull them out and make sure they don't get lost. I will lift this off, and you may have to put the keys down in order to slide it free. That's okay. And it has these 2 red bits of felt beneath it. These are all crushed down, and I'm going to go ahead and replace those later to kind of keep it from moving around and also keep it from rattling on the case. If necessary, you can just replace these with a couple of nylon or rubber washers. It'll do the same job. Right? So with that off, I now have to take the With that off, the next thing that needs to go are the type bar shields and the pencil holder. Now, because this is, if you're going to clean this, you can remove it separately. Just be aware that there's a little bit of a spring washer behind it. But because this is screwed to the type bar shield, I don't actually have to remove that in order to remove the shield. So go ahead and do this. There's a screw here. This one, you'll benefit from having a standard flat blade screwdriver, because this is one of the rare instances where this typewriter uses a nice wide socket or a nice wide slot. So there's a screw on the front, there's one on the side. careful because it's easy to slip out. So it might be better to have a, instead of using a multi-screwdriver, just to have the single right one. Now, I have to turn the thing. Take the ones on the back off. There's one more screw, and I actually probably should have taken this one off first. You can see right here that there is a Typebar rest. And it's just got bits of felt and so forth on it, and it's meant to sit loosely. There's one screw here that is attached to that, and when I get that out, this will kind of flop around. So let me go ahead and do that. Like I said, because the whole thing's going to move, it might have been better if I took that one out first. And now you can see that the Typebar guard is free. And please note that this has a very particular shape, that all of the Typebars match this shape in their respective sizes. So if this gets bent or one of the Typebars gets bent, it can interfere with the motion of things. And when this gets bent, it tends to bend a bunch of the Typebars with it. So it's worth doing a little comparison, side to side, to try to make sure that they're a pretty close match. They're not going to be exact because they're not shaped quite exactly, but you can at least get the profile. And once you get this fixed, then you can start fixing these. And if necessary, you can find someone who has a working unit and ask them to dismount this and trace you this on a piece of paper, and provide you some measurements so you can recreate it, or just, if you know the guy well enough, you can have him mail it to you. And kind of the same thing for some of these Typebars. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out of my way because it's going to interfere with, taking the Typebars off, not because it's going to impede anything, but because I just don't need it flopping around. Okay. And some cases, the best place to put a screw for storage is right back where you took it off. So that's what I will be doing a little bit later after I get rid of this stuff. Now, to get the Typebars off, first I need to remove this piece right here, because all the Typebars they actually have a pivot wire between them. It's not just this little arc. And that is mounted underneath this bar here, which is kind of, it's a, these screws are an end shake adjustment. Basically, you can think of them as a tension so that the Typebar can't move, the roller can't move when it operates, but it also is free to move. So it's kind of setting that little balance. I'll go ahead and take this off. And again, this screwdriver is not going to work. Actually, that's why I have to go to this little guy. That out. It's kind of a longish screw, as you can see. And it does have a shoulder on it. Sorry for bumping the camera. And some of these are really on there good and kind of frozen in place. So it may be worth on some of these hitting it with a little bit of penetrating oil then using the proper screw removal techniques, you can see a little bracket here, of applying good pressure and not trying to move it all at once, but trying to apply and release tension and see if you can get a break without putting so much tension on the screwdriver that you cam out and ruin the screw head. All right, now turn this back over here. I need to remove this screw and this one. And when I do that, all of these are going to start to come loose. These screws have never been out of this unit as far as I can tell. They're tight, and many screws here are rusted in place. And whenever I put something like this back in, I always try to put a drop of oil on the screw before I put it back in the slot. And these, you will note, this is the one that came out of the back. And this is the one that came out of the front. So it looks like they're identical, except for the one on the front is a little bit longer. So worth keeping them separate if you can. Now, this bar here will lift off. As you can see, it's got the adjusting screws. It's kind of filthy, so it's good to replace it. I advise you not to disturb any of these screws if you can help it. They shouldn't easily move, but pay attention. So let's go ahead and hit the other one. Right. And again, this bar comes out. Same deal. So remember, these are not the same. So the one with the angled piece goes in back, and the straight one goes up front. And that ought to be the same on both units. And the angle bit goes under this bracket here. So set those aside. And now I can see the Typebar just kind of flop around. And something I will point out right here is that these sit, zoom in here so I can show you, in a series of grooves below the adjustment bracket there. So these are not just sitting in there randomly. That makes them moderately easy to put back in, but of course it'll be complicated trying to keep everything in place while you do that. But it's possible. And after I get, this is actually be the last thing I do before this is actually going to be the first thing I do before I reconnect them to the key levers, because it'll be just easier then. Now, in order to remove the Typebar itself, I have to go down here, and you can see there is a little joint here, just right here, and it's really hard to see while it's in place. You can see that there's a little bit of a hook on the Typebar that goes under this. And this little bit here will flex a bit. It's something like a clevis. And with that, you can pull the Typebar forward and away from the hook. Just like that. And this Typebar is now free to come off of the typewriter. That's what it looks like. This piece is riveted to it. So we have a Typebar with its slugs. We have the connecting link with a little hook. So it's got a little twist here and a little hook that goes around the key lever. And that I will do for all of these. When it's going to go back in, all I have to do once I get it in place is keep this the right side of that Typebar or the key lever. Move that spring forward and slide the type bar back onto its setting. Oops. It's nice to have a smaller screwdriver when you do this so that you can keep it out of the way. Just like that, it's back in place. That's all you have to do. So we go ahead and remove this one and the one next to it. You need to be careful though, because you do have to get this out a fair amount in order to let the type bar hook pass. You don't want to do damage to this little clevis arrangement. Right. Now for the one next to it, which is the ampersand. There we go. And if it may be better to do this before you take the bars off, so that these will all be held in place. Like I said, I'm just going to show how to do a couple of these. So let me pause and put one of these bars back in place, because now I have to take a few other things off and then tip the typewriter up, and I don't want everything coming loose. Be right back. And like I said, all that's necessary later on in order to allow you to take the comb off, especially if you're going to clean it separately. Now, I have already done this, and I've learned from that experience that this really should be the last thing to come off because of all the difficulties. That is held on by 4 screws, and they are kind of a pain in the butt to reach to put them back in after this is out. But this was also filthy, and as you can see, the paint's coming off of it. So I'm experimenting with different ways of repainting that right now. As you can tell, I have a more or less match, but I'm not satisfied with the paint, so I'm gonna be looking for something that will work a little bit better. That's an oil-based paint. It's just taking forever to dry. Now, so we're working with the Q and the X to take those out because the others are still attached. So, over again. That's the nature of an Oliver. Let's see if I can brace this up somehow. That'll do. Now, to get the key levers out, it's not at all difficult. What we have here are a set of return springs, and this is the first thing that has to go. So this bit here at the end is turned back, and it connects to the key lever down here. Let's see if I can move the camera a little bit. So you can see the other end of the spring right here on each key lever. And it's just a simple hook. So the easiest way to get these off is to just pull up on the loop here, and with your thumb push back to unhook this side of the spring, and then it will simply lift off from the key lever. That's the first thing that has to be done. As far as I can tell, all these springs are identical, so you don't have to keep them in order. So I'm going to do that one more time with this one. So tight confines. lift up, thumb it down, give it a little extra push, and off it comes. Now, the next thing we have to do is remove the cover on what is called, what the manufacturer calls the standard, and that is simply the pivot point and the spacer guide to keep the keys in place and keep them aligned. But they have that official term. So I'm going to take these 3 screws out. And here's something I want you to notice. These 2 screws are identical. This one is not. And you can visually see, if I focus on this other one here, that the head of that screw stands taller than the other one. You need to remember that you have 2 different types of screws here when you take this bracket off, so you can get the taller screw back in the right place. And that is because this one has a longer thread. So you can see that here as compared to these other 2. So the one that goes in the bottom in the odd hole is the one with the taller head and the longer threads. Now I have the plate out. This is just a retaining plate, and you can see the indentations here. I've got 2 holes on one side, 1 hole on the other. You can't exactly get this in the wrong orientation. And now, all I have to do is dislodge the key lever and pull it free. You can see the key lever just rests on the pivot. It doesn't actually go through it. If you look on these here, you can see that this hole right in front here sits just in front of the standard. I'm not exactly sure what this is for because it's not used. But there it is. And you'll notice that every slot in the standard has a key lever in it. There's no extra room. And if you when you put this back in, sliding it in from the front, all you have to do is make sure that it goes under this bar here, which is used to adjust the... This is part of the ribbon mechanism. It's used to make sure that it moves the pawl properly. Not sure exactly what this is called, or how to verify the adjustment is exactly correct, but that's what it's for. And you can kind of see where the screw had been sitting in the discoloration right there. So once you get this down underneath the spring, you simply make sure that it's not catching on any of the other keys that are next to it. Bring it down, set it back under the pivot, put the bar back on, loop the spring in its little spot so it's held there. Keep it on the right side of the key lever and hook it back in, and we're done. And just like that, the key lever's in and works properly. It does not require anything else, just that. So I'm going to take this back out again. And again, I do have to be careful with these springs. They are old. So that key lever up off the pivot, slide it forward. And you notice that each key has a particular deviation on it. And let me take this other key lever out real quick, and I'll turn the unit back over on its feet. You can see these two key levers do not have the same shape. So You do have to keep them in order somewhat, but it won't be hard to tell which is which. Let me see if these are actually numbered anywhere. I don't see anything, but I'll go ahead and stamp these myself just to make it easier for the next person. But that's not really relevant. So let me lift the camera up a bit so that I can turn the typewriter over without banging anything around. Take this hardware out of the way here. Now, as I was noting, if you look, you'll see that each type bar flares out as it comes above the keyboard. So if you pay attention to that flare, and you make sure to remember that the key actually points up and not down, all you have to do is put these in order of their shape, and you can get them back in the right order. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and stamp these with little numbers. I'll have to figure out exactly where I want to do that. Probably somewhere back in here. Just to make it simpler myself. I don't actually intend to remove the key tops, at least not all at once. I'll probably do them individually as I clean things. But you can see how much grime and filth is on these keys. Now, on these type bars, I was able to mostly clean them in place, but not this down here, nor the backside on this. So there's a lot of surface rust here I want to try to get off, and I want to do a better job on the inside to make sure that these are nice and smooth and don't carry oxide into the next generation. And now you can also see underneath just how utterly filthy this table is, and this has been cleaned already. So just being able to get all this stuff off is just going to make cleaning this typewriter so much easier and a little bit less inconvenient. And as I said, the last step here, after all the key lever was out, would be to remove the comb, and it would also be the first thing to go back in place so that it can be used to help line the key levers up and keep them all nice and organized for you while you're sliding them back in place. Anyway, this video has been much longer than I wanted it, but I think hopefully instructive. Obviously, I will have less of a pile of parts while I'm doing this on my own without the video, because I will be able to store these and organize them properly instead of just setting them aside. But this is really what I wanted to show, getting the type bars and key levers off and back on to a Oliver No. 5 typewriter. And don't forget all the screws that got to go back into place, including the stops and the space bar. Don't forget to put the patent plate back on first, because the stops are what hold this in place. The space bar has to go through them. So, and if you need to take this off, it's also easy, but you do have to get underneath to remove the nut that holds this on. And there's kind of a height adjustment associated with that as well. But as you see, I've already cleaned these and gotten them as shiny as they're going to get, and they look a lot better than they did. They were almost black when I got them. Anyway, that's all there is to it. Kind of a complicated job. Oh, and I forgot to mention you have to remove the ribbon cups as well, but that's kind of obvious. 2 screws, nothing complicated about it. And when you put them back on, just remember to get them oriented so the ribbon comes off the proper direction, which should be, they should be oriented like this. So the little bit for the ribbon points toward the back so that it can go through the ribbon guide here. All right. And that wraps it up. Once again, my name is Wayne, And this is type tested with a very dirty and somewhat complicated Oliver number 5 cleaning job. Good day.